welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful summer, teachers. I've been thinking so much about you. I know I've been posting here and there on social media, but now I'm back. I've taken a little bit of a break, and in between, relaxing by the pool and reading, I've been obviously very busy with product updates, and I created a brand new course with my colleague Bethany at the Teacher Prep Room. So it hasn't all been fun and games, but I definitely am ready to start thinking about the new year, start posting new videos about my progress and the things that I'm thinking about doing for the school year. I know in the last video I told you I'll be teaching 3 sections of AP Chemistry, and I have 1 section of Honors Chemistry this year, so that's a new schedule for me. I'll talk a little bit about the schedule probably in one of my future videos because I am a little nervous about it, but it'll be fine. We'll wait until then. But I thought in this video, what I could talk about are my top 5 takeaways from being a first-year teacher. When I reflect and think about all the things that have shaped me into who I am, that first year of teaching definitely caused me to reflect and think about my teaching practice a lot more. A lot of the things that I was doing early on in my teaching career have stopped, but there's a lot that has stayed the same. And so really these 5 things have really transcended my 16-year career as a teacher. And these are things that I'm going to recommend that you think about as you prepare for this first year. So this first one is actually a little story involved here. When I was a new teacher, I had a copy room that I would go into to make copies. And this was a copy room that was designated for all the science teachers. So whether we taught biology or physics or chemistry, everybody went in there. It also functioned as our lunchroom. It was kind of more of a workroom, and then our supervisor's office was also in there. And so I remember one day, it was a particularly difficult day. I went in there to make copies, and I'm kind of standing there, and I look up, and there's a piece of paper that it's clearly been folded. It almost looked like there were some stains on it, and then the ink was really faded. And I remember thinking to myself oh, I've never really noticed that before. I must have been too caught up in my new teacher stuff to even notice. So on this piece of paper it said 3 words: adjust, adapt, achieve. And at that moment in time, I remember thinking, wow, this could not be more perfect. This is something that I really needed to read. It kind of let me know that it's okay that this first year is not going to be perfect. And if I could just make some small changes to what I'm doing, and that will really help my students be a little bit more successful. And I think this has a lot of value for students because those 3 words are actually posted in my classroom right now. They're posted right above the hood in my classroom. And it's just a reminder that, it's not a sprint. It's really a journey. It takes time to figure it out. And, just like with students, there may be teachers that aren't teaching the way you think that you should be taught, and you just need to figure out how to make the best of it. And, if you're a new teacher, it might be helpful to think about a quote or something that you could write down and have it near you, or even putting it on your classroom wall as an affirmation of it's not always easy, but it'll get better. The second takeaway that I got from my first year of teaching has a lot to do with classroom management. I mean, so much of what teachers are concerned with has to do with classroom management. And so number 1 here, relationships first. Relationships make a huge difference in student behavior in the classroom. Your number 1 goal as a new teacher needs to be getting to know your students' names, getting to know their likes and their dislikes, and those things take time. So there is power in a name, but it does take time to kind of figure that out. And you just want to do the best that you can to try to get to know who they are, kind of get to know what are they concerned about when it comes to chemistry. You can do icebreakers. I'm not a big icebreaker person. I don't really particularly like them. I like more reflection. So you could do a Google Forms survey that you ask kids questions about. You can do more a visible thinking strategy, a compass points thing. But for me, that needs to be I would argue the number 1 priority. And then of course, as I already mentioned, it takes time to build a relationship. So in the meantime, the third takeaway is the importance of routine and procedure. So routine and procedure are a critical part of classroom management. It is imperative that your students know what to expect and when. You want your students to flourish in your classroom environment, and one way to do that is to make sure that you establish a predictable pattern of instructional routines, daily routines, whatever you're doing, like certain ways that you do things in your class, establishing that pattern can really help your students feel empowered and give them the confidence to say, I can really do this. I trust my teacher. I know that she or he is there for me and they want me to be successful. The fourth takeaway, which is definitely something that might be a little interesting for you to ask, especially of your students, but asking your students who the best teacher in the school is can be a real game changer. Because one of the things that I did is I asked my students who's the best teacher in the school, and then I made sure that I spent time talking with that teacher and observing that teacher as much as possible. Now, obviously, you can't be the best teacher in the school. You have to be you as a teacher. You can't be your mentor. You have to, figure out practices and things that make you feel comfortable in your classroom. But by observing master teachers that are really regarded very highly by the students can help you to kind of take some of the guesswork out of some of the instructional routines or strategies that you're using. You can pick out the strategies that you like and immediately use them in your classroom. That way you don't have to spend so much time doing like trial and error to try to figure out what you like and what you don't like. The fifth takeaway that I have from my first year teaching is actually a quote by one of my former supervisors. So he said, "Play nice in the sandbox." And I think at the time I was kind of like hurt by this because I kind of felt like basically I was being told this, and like if I don't, quote, get along with my colleagues or play nice in the sandbox, then I'm ultimately going to be let go. And I want to believe that this person didn't mean that, but after kind of going through and like experiencing this person after a few years, that's exactly what he meant. But I'm going to still use this as an example because I think it is valuable. Teachers have a tendency to be really toxic with each other. And so your first goal when it comes to colleagues and relationships is to be as professional as possible. You want to make sure that you are agreeable within reason, that you spend some time getting to know all the teachers in your department, but don't be afraid to disagree professionally with other teachers, but don't knock it until you try it. You want to make sure that, if somebody's recommending a teaching strategy with you, that you try it before you say, this isn't for me. Teachers have a tendency to be really hard on each other, and you really want to avoid the toxicity. You want to really avoid other teachers that are very negative, because then you're going to be surrounded by negativity, and your first year teaching, you do not need that. You need people that are going to lift you up. I think it's really important that you think about who you're aligning yourself with, who you're going to learn from, and consider like how you will be perceived if you're surrounding yourself by teachers who often are not up on best practices, or often online shopping during their classes, who don't even know their students' names. You want to make sure that you're a teacher who's regarded with the highest respect. And one way to do that is to make sure that you're engaging with conversation with your colleagues and staying up and current on your best practices. Avoid negativity, because that can really drain you, and you don't need that stuff in your life this first year. Make sure you align yourself with teachers that are just like you, that really want to improve the world around them, improve their students' lives, believes in their students that they can be successful. Don't align yourself with negativity. It may be hard to do that depending on where you are, but don't be afraid to reach out to other professional learning communities. There's a ton of different Facebook groups that you can talk and interact with and collaborate with. But I would say the most important piece of advice is, at the end of the day, you do what's best for students. Your feelings about your colleagues aside, you have to ask yourself the question, is it what's best for kids? If it's not what's best for kids, then you shouldn't be doing it. That's the only way that you can make sure that you are doing what's right and what's best and what matters. All right, well, I think that's it for me. I hope this video was helpful. If you are interested in taking our new teacher course, we would love to have you. I will provide a link down below where you can see our courses. Remember, it launches August 1st, and you will have time to be able to work with Bethany and myself. If you know a new teacher that you think would benefit from the course, make sure you share this course with them. Either way, I will be sure to check in with you soon. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week.